A while ago, as you recall, Ian, I was considering what type of new computer I should buy. Should I buy a new computer? Should I save a couple $1,000s and buy like a used one? And I spent so much time on research. The time that I'm spending on looking at all these options, I'm actually actually overspending my time. I'm basically wasting money. It's like really what I did was I wasted all of that time where I could have been making money, or I could have had like a great quality experience doing something.
Straight out of economics, the categorically opportunity cost is the value of the marginal thing that you could be doing instead of what you're doing. The only way you really know is to buy the planter and put the plant in, and if it dies, you go, should have bought a different planter, right? Or buy the computer that was, cheap and be like, this doesn't work now, I have to go buy another one. But finding out sooner rather than later is almost always more valuable in pure economic terms than doing more research to try to figure out what the best decision is on the front end in a state of uncertainty. All right, let's start with who you are and what you do.
All right, so I call myself a fractional creative director. Sometimes people aren't too sure what that means. So the way I kind of explain it is, those companies that are brilliant at what they do, but they're terrible at explaining it. You probably have.
I do a little bit. Yeah, I have some experience with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I come in. I tighten up their story, I clean up their branding and their visuals, and I make sure that their story actually lands, especially in high stakes environments. And where that might how those problems might come out in conversation might sound something like, we're shifting our sales model, but we haven't figured out, or we're shifting our business model, but we haven't figured out how to communicate that through sales or through our website or through our decks. Or, the message sounds great in our heads, but it's a total mess on the slides or the website. So essentially, I help companies that are super smart stop sounding confusing so that they can get growing and be effective at what they do. So
nice. So
yeah.
What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So right now I'm working with kind of a really great array of companies. I have a couple wealth management companies. I have a fintech company. I also have a small nonprofit company that works with charter schools all around the country. So what I love about what I do is I'm not just doing kind of one type of project. I'm doing web design over here. I'm developing a slide deck over here. I'm creating a new logo for a product or service over there. So really and to a lot of people, those can seem like really disparate types of projects. They're all designed, but really what they all kind of boil down to is helping to communicate your value more effectively and to the person that you're trying to reach. So usually the companies that come to me, they're really good at what they do, but they have a trust translation problem.
I like that. And your background's design, yeah?
My background is in graphic design, so that's really kind of the lens that I kind of work through. But a lot of what I do too has to do with language, tightening things up, making sure things not only make sense, but they sound right. They sound either kind of beautiful or, at the very least effective. So that's design lens.
So tell me a little bit about that transition, or sort of how it seems like a transition to me, maybe it's not, But how did you find yourself moving from graphic design into uh, sort of, it sounds like more of a consultative role where you do a lot of graphic design work, but it's more about building trust for uh, brands and businesses that are in high trust industries?
Hmm. Well, I I think the journey started a really long time ago. My first my first kind of experience in this world was with web design many years ago, in like good old 1999, when like nobody had a website. My dad was he started a software consulting firm, and he wanted me to create a website for him, so I did it. I was really into like 3D shapes back then. I would never show that website to anybody. But I just decided I loved kind of like the aspect of helping to mold how the value is explained. And I wouldn't have been able to articulate that at that point, but that really kind of got me started with web stuff. I ended up getting a job at a Johnson and Johnson company that specialized in surgical devices, and was doing some web stuff for them. And one day I happened to be in the marketing director's office, and she had these product brochures spread out on her desk, and they had just kind of come back from the printer, and I looked at them and I just thought to myself, these look awful. Like like they paid a design agency to create these, and I mean, they're just okay. They don't even make the product look like sexy. Like they're totally boring. And I have no, I mean, oh, this was all my, conversation with myself. I have no idea how to use any of the programs that the people in this agency that they worked with know how to use. But I can't believe that they paid this money, and they're gonna kind of like settle for this. So I realized right then and there was this whole other world where I could make a difference, and I cared about how the company's message is going out in like all these different fronts.
Hmm.
So it was really at that point where I was like, oh, so there's not just product brochures, there's stuff that you display at a conference, there's mailers that you send out to customers, and so it was really there's signage on the side of the building, advertisements, like all that stuff. And I just realized, wow, I care about all those things. Um, and I want to help the client not only like look super awesome in the way that they want to, but it also has to kind of make sense to the right person. And I guess I'll just tack on that kind of make sense to the right person. That that kind of comes from my English degree in college. So
Hmm.
I love reading. I wouldn't call myself like a writer. Definitely, after I got out of college, I was like, I do not want to be an English teacher. I do not want to be a journalist. What the crap am I going to do? So that's kind of why I ended up, I guess, kind of gravitating toward, in hindsight, gravitating toward web design, and then kind of design communication as a whole, because it is not an obvious outgrowth, but it's an indirect outgrowth of that kind of
Hmm.
desire to communicate.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like it started more as like a gut feeling or reaction where you realize I care about this thing, sort of following that feeling into sort of different, what it sounds like in that company and that corporate experience were sort of isolated channels or silos almost. So was there a moment, perhaps that was the moment, but was there a time when you sort of realized that, like, hey, this thing you care about and your perspective about, both the graphic design and the messaging and all that was unique or different from how other people were looking at it?
Yes, I, and that's a really good question, Ian. I don't know if I could point to a particular point in time where I kind of realized I I was different. All I know is that when I work with developers, they get like the functionality side of things. And they're like, "Yep, yep, we'll make it work." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it has to actually look like $1 million too, and you have to care about those details." And then when if I work with designers, they're like, "Yeah, well, like make it look awesome and like find some cool, photos or graphics or patterns to use in there." And it's like, "Well, okay, sure, but then it has to actually not only just make sense, it has to kind of communicate something very special too." or
Hmm.
or if it's more functional, it has to actually do the thing that you're paying the money for. It can't just like be a pretty face. So it has to actually get asked out on a date, to continue with my cheesy metaphor. So yeah,
So
I
what?
something I've known for a while, but I don't know if I could point to a particular point in time.
But it sounds like you definitely experienced that tension where you're seeing it in a certain way and you care about business outcomes that a designer doesn't. You care about beauty that a developer doesn't. So with the tension that introduced, like, tell me about that and sort of how you handled that or what you did with that in your work.
Well, this isn't like exactly an answer to your question, but it just kind of popped into my head when you asked it. I do have some history of working with agencies too, design agencies, ad agencies. And although that's really kind of fun in a way, because I'm surrounded by other creatives, and uh, a lot of kind of fun, get a lot of fun inside jokes and all that. Um, I realized after I'd kind of been experiencing that for a bit that it wasn't totally what I wanted. What I really want is to have direct access to the client, so that I can find out if what I'm creating for them is actually landing, or it's actually helping them grow, or it is in part, but there's actually some other stuff that isn't really working too well, or whatever mixture of that you have. So I yeah, that's not like a straight on answer to your question, but to me, I think that's why that's why I ended up really kind of striking out on my own, or staying on my own,
Hmm.
because I I mean, I can decide who I want to work with. I mean, let's be honest. I can say, nope, we're not a good fit, or, some version of that. But within reason, I have like pretty much complete control over my communication with the client. And I can even make it a stipulation in advance. Like, okay, I want to have check-ins with, you know, the CEO or the COO or the director of marketing, whoever kind of is the stakeholder or stakeholders in this. And when I was working with an agency, I didn't have any say in that, and so I was happy because I was designing, but I was designing in essentially kind of a vacuum. I would just have someone tell me, "Yep, change this font. Oh, yep, swap those two things." But I didn't know why. And I
Hmm.
think some people would say like, "Well, who cares? You're just getting a paycheck." And sure, sure. But I believe I can get a paycheck and get value for myself, and kind of like put, um, I don't know, this is going to sound really tacky, put like value gas in my tank. And
Hmm.
I just don't think that you have to choose. I mean, famous last words. Who knows? Maybe I'll work in an agency in a year. Who knows? But that's how I feel. That's how I felt for many years. It's how I still feel now.
Yeah, I love that. So it's something about your unique creative identity that you can sort of show up more wholly in the types of relationships. As an independent business owner, you get to dictate with whom you work, the type of work you're doing. And it sounds like a way you resolve that tension is by working with the more technical, analytical, subject matter expert types who are running the business. They know the outcome they need, but they don't understand the creative side to how to get there, what levers to pull in the business, and you're able to do that uniquely. Whereas if you're working for an agency or just doing the creative, that's fun because you enjoy that stuff, but there's a part of you that's missing that ability to work with the stakeholders and to do that sort of translation work between the analytical and the creative. So it sounds like that's one way that you have sort of come to resolve it, and part of the
Mm,
resolution to that tension is you being an independent business owner, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
yes,
All right.
exactly. I would have very little control or just
Yeah.
much control.
So if this is an interesting question to answer, if not, we can just punt. But if that's how you resolved it, was there was it a lengthy journey or a struggle, or can you tell me about the ways you tried to work out that tension before you sort of resolved, hey, for me to show up in this way, to do this thing the way I want to do it, uh, I'm going to have to be independent. I'm going to have to run my own business. I'm going to have to be able to choose my clients, things like that.
Yeah, a good question. I think the answer is kind of maybe far less interesting than someone that's looking to start their own business would find. The reason I started my own business is because the Johnson and Johnson company that I had been working for, I was just kind of working as a temp, and they said, "Hey, we want to continue working with you. Your time frame as a temp like is legally up. We can't hire you. We'd like to, but we can't. But what we can do is if you start your own company, then we can work with you." So the whole reason really I actually stopped work. This company dropped me like 6 months to a year after I started my own business.
Hmm.
So when I think about it, they're the reason that I'm they're the reason. It wasn't I was like, yes, I want to start my own business. I have this like great dream. It was totally like, okay, I like working with these people and they're saying this is the way I can continue to work with them. So sure, I'll just do this. So there was no at that time, there was no like, you know, inner kind of questioning or dark night of the soul, like, what should I do? Now, when I like just going back to like a second ago when I said this company dropped me, whatever it was, 6 months, a year after I started my business, that was pretty awful. That was really scary because at that time they were probably like 60, 70 or more percent of my business.
Hmm.
And I I just thought, like, crap, what am I gonna do? Like how so I I did kind of at times kind of ping pong back and forth to, you know, working for different agencies and but I still kind of came back to working for myself. And I mean, you know this, Ian, because we've kind of talked about this almost ad nauseum, like um, the the feast or famine kind of that inevitably kind of happens with. Well, no, I shouldn't say inevitably. That often accompanies owning your own business and owning a consulting business, especially.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
however,
yeah, that's I think your story is uh, very common, and it's like a lot of people who start their own business, either the company needs, hey, can you be an independent contractor or something like that, and they begin that way, or they want to be an independent contractor because they get opportunities outside of employment or something, and it's great, but functionally, like the natural progression is I am my own employee, right? So you're still working like an employee on projects and you have client concentration problems, like one company is 60% or more, sometimes it's, 80% of the revenue, and then that contract ends, and now you have a decision, right? It's, well, do I go find other employment, or do I sort of graduate to the next level, which is running a business, right? All the things uh, that people don't want to do, and the reason that firms exist, right? So people often start their business because they want to do the thing that they're an expert in, the creative thing, the design in your case, right? And so they're like, this would be great. I have my own business. I'll spend all my time doing that. The reality is you end up, you got the five business disciplines, right? Marketing, sales, delivery, finance, and management. And you have to do all of those things. Only one of those, only 20% of it is actually the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
And so, uh, you like you had a dramatic crossroads where it was, this contract goes away. Now, what do I do? And I've seen, I mean, in my own story, but I've seen a lot of clients go through this also, where for a while you sort of ping pong back and forth between good days and bad days, or months, or even years of like, I'd rather just go get a job if I could find a good firm to work at where uh, somebody else or an entire team handles marketing, somebody else is handling sales, somebody else is handling finance and management, and I just get to do my thing. And that's really attractive some days. Other days it's like, no, I'm working with a great client and I really enjoy being on my own. And so you sort of ping pong back and forth until you make a commitment, which I know from your story you have, of, I'm going to take the business part of running my own business seriously, because I know that by learning this stuff, creating systems, processes around it, then it enables me to work, to spend more time doing the thing I want to do, but then also I have more control over with whom I'm working, the types of projects that I do, the pricing of those projects, all of those elements. So, tell me a little bit, if you will, about sort of your decision and experience, what I would broadly call like going pro as a solo business owner.
Well, in some ways, Ian, I feel like I'm a horrible example of this. I'll just like say that right out. Uh,
Everyone does, though.
I have, I mean, I guess maybe everyone's like this. I have grand ideas that, maybe they kind of like start to see the light of day, but then, 2 weeks in, a project kind of like, takes over my schedule, and like 2 months later, I'm like, oh yeah, like where was that? So, uh, I, I do think, Ian, that part of that journey, has, I don't know what the right word is, like kind of like materialized more firmly in some of my work with you. And believe it or not, I was actually just, were your ears ringing? I was just talking about you, like literally about an hour ago, uh, with a friend over coffee, and I was I was just saying that, yeah, this coach Ian that I worked with for a while, what he really kind of helped me do was not spin my wheels so much in like, oh, come up with all of these, trying to think that what I'm doing is coming up with options. Like that's my work, when in fact, really what the real work is, really what people are paying me for is shaving down their options to like, two or maybe even one solid option. And that really kind of flows through really every part of my business, not even just the design concepts, whatever I'm creating, that I do for my clients, but uh, how I even say, hey, here's where I think the next step in our engagement could go, or here's a proposal that you'd asked for in kind of continuing, our design support retainer, or Um, here's like my recommended option for fixing this major issue with your website or something like that. Something not even
Mhm.
stuff that has anything to do with design. Uh, so, but I'll be really honest and I'll say that's been a long, long time coming. Um, I think
Yeah, that's
for yeah, and like by I say a long time, like I've been in business for myself for almost like about 20 years now. So I feel like it's only been in the last maybe like 2, 3 years that I've started to kind of just, hear the little kind of good angel Ian on my whatever it is, my right shoulder. Is that the right one? Like being
it
like, come
is.
on, stop, separate the wheat from the chaff here. Just stop like wasting your time coming up with all these options. Just like make it super simple. Even the process of creating the options can be simple too. So that's what I mean when I say that idea kind of like flows down throughout everything. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't now that I think of it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, from my perspective, because we worked together a few years ago, and you had been experiencing that feast or famine cycle for uh, I didn't realize it was quite that long, but 10 or 15 years at that point. And you're you were consistently showing up as I don't want to say as an employee, but as a creative, right? You were showing up like this is something that I see so often. I definitely saw in your case, uh, is that the most conscientious and gifted experts uh, love their work, which is
Mm,
great. When you love your work, you get excited about it and you want to share it with, your client and the other people that are involved in the project. But in your case, what that meant was coming up with more ideas and options and saying if this then that and we could do this and looking at all things that were very insightful and good and true, but fundamentally what the client was paying for and what they wanted, especially your ideal client being the analytical, business driven type who's basically like, I don't understand why this
yeah,
marketing works and this marketing doesn't, or I don't understand this messaging and how I should change it. What they want is you to take your skills, go away and do the options and do whatever you want and come back to them and say, we should do this one. And they'll
yeah,
say, yeah, let's try it. Right. So
yeah,
categorically for you, it was showing up not just as a creative and a consultant, but actually as a leader who's leading from that perspective and who's leading through the client engagement and helping reduce options, helping winnow down the strategies and messages and all the aspects of it and sort of shepherd them through the process so that they could connect the dots between business goal, business leadership, business outcome, and what the actual product and client experience and things that you were working on were. So to me, that category of like helping you make that transition from being a really gifted individual contributor to actually being a true consultant and like an advisor who still you're not forsaking that identity around design, around the creativity, messaging, any of that stuff, but you're actually offering it to them in a way where they can say yes, right, when it's a fit, or no if it's not, and you stop wasting your own time. And so you move through that process and just sort of the posture change. But look, I'll say to you that I mean, in the couple years since we worked together, like you have taken that postural change and how you show up, and it's been really impressive. The work that you've done, the success that you've had, the peace that you show up when we do occasionally chat, like seem much more relaxed and at peace with how you work, with the work you do, with the opportunities that you have. And so to me, that's the biggest fruit is that one postural change in how you saw yourself in those client relationships has turned into so much more out of the business that you wanted from the very beginning. So that's all the work that you've done since. It's really great.
thank you. That's a really wonderful that you can see that. I'll tell on myself a little bit though, and I'll say I think where I Where I continue to struggle, I've definitely gotten better, but where I continue to struggle is in those conversations where leadership is really, really kind of called for, where essentially it's, the conversation should ideally go, something like this is me. Um, so here's Ian, how I see the problem. You could do this or you could do that. But I think you should do this and you should work with me because I'm going to be able to solve problems A, B, and C. Now, the way that I do that is this. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to go through all of the rigmarole, but I know that I'm the one to do this because X, Y, and Z. What do you say? Like, I struggle so much with even just like talking like that. I can talk to my husband like that. I can talk to like, close family or friends like that. But yeah, there's something in me that kind of wants to qualify. It kind of stops short of kind of just jumping off that ledge and kind of flying because I'm like, well, I don't know. I actually don't know what is going through my
So
head when I do that. But
this is what you just described. What you just described in that situation, that's an opportunity conversation or a sales conversation, not an existing client conversation, but basically a prospect conversation.
uh, Yes. Yes, I think that's kind of, yeah, what I was describing. But I would say that even comes into conversations with existing clients, especially if it's around, continuing our relationship in some way or so. I mean, I guess in a way that would be like a sales.
Yeah, that's like an expansion conversation. It's still, yeah.
Yeah, or it
Hmm.
really would
Okay.
want to articulate my value in a way that's just like, this is my value and yep, just don't have to explain it and take it or leave it.
Yeah, but even how you say like having to explain your value, like obviously you want them to understand what you do or the impact that it will make, but it still sounds like there's some little voice or something that's suggesting you need to justify your value,
Yeah.
or you need to.
I
So,
need to,
because another way you could have that exact same conversation is you could just say, "Hey, listen, you can do anything you want. Like, there are people who will sell you this. You can go to Fiverr and get some designer. You can go to AI and make a picture for you. It's your call. It's your business. If you want to work with me, this is the only thing I'm going to do because A, I don't want to do any of that other stuff. It's a waste of my time, probably a waste of yours too, but there's only one way to find out. This is how I work. If you want to, if you want to work with me, let's do it, right? So the posture could be rather than trying to explain the value, just this is how I do it. So you
yeah,
can choose to work with anybody, but if you want to work with me, I'm going to do it this way because this is the way that I believe is right. That's not about like persuading them or convincing them that your way is right. Because remember, they don't freaking know. The whole idea, the whole reason, this is the prospect paradox. I know you've heard me rant about this before, uh, but I'm going to do it again. if if you need to ask for help, so the prospect paradox is if you need help, you're unqualified to buy it. And what I mean by that is anything that's technical, anything that's subject matter expertise, anything that's like that, if you are, by definition, if you're seeking someone else's help, there's an information and understanding deficit. You cannot do it yourself, which means you don't know how to navigate all those technical decisions, which means that anybody who's coming and talking to you about their approach, their style, the software they're going to use, the tools they're going to use, are just trying to baffle you with BS primarily. Uh, it's because you don't have any way to navigate that, right? So inherently, your job as the service provider is to recognize, like, hey, I could explain this to you, I could teach you, but then you would be me and you wouldn't need my help. And I don't think that you're here to try to become me, right? I don't think you want to go, learn the skills, do all the things so that you can do it yourself. You're actually trying to get some leverage in your business by hiring an expert to do this for you. I can do that if you want. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you that because we're professionals. Here's how I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to try and justify that against the 87 other ways you could choose to do it. You just have to decide, right? And anybody who wants, this is another uh, I can just project and expect that at some point in your story over those 10 or 15 years, you've seen this. But anybody who's buying from a posture of, I want to understand what you do and I want to understand it and like micromanage it to a point where I could do it myself would be a horrible client.
Right.
So
Yes.
this is also a useful filter where I'm going to do it this way. They might be like, oh, interesting. Why do you do it this way compared to this other person that I'm talking about? Answer the question. But if that person's like, well, I was thinking about using this software, could you use that? For me, that's like a hard eject. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
no, that's not really how I work. So I feel like this probably isn't a good fit. But really, what's going on is like, I don't want to deal with somebody who actually wants to be in the weeds so much that they're going to be continually questioning not just
Yeah.
my expertise, but my process, taking up time, in the engagement. And so that's a filter that you can use there too. Just be like, no, this is how I do it. Happy to explain why if you're genuinely curious. But if you're trying to become me instead of doing what you should be doing and leading the business, then my project's not going to be successful no matter what I do, and you're going to be upset at the end of it because you're not going to get the result that you think you're going to get because you spend all your time following me around instead of using what I build for you or deliver to you.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a long rant on prospect paradox, but uh, some of it, like what I hear from you, is you've come a really really long way, and it's really great. But in those conversations, just a no is a win too. So just say, "This is how I do it."
Right.
If they say no, all right, great. Who's next?
I think I think kind of like the message that I was kind of getting, right after you kind of started talking was really my confidence is what, not like my explanation of my value, but my attitude or my confidence. Maybe you would actually have a much better way of articulating it. Is in that's a huge part of what is contributing to whatever the sale or the effectiveness of explaining, not explaining my value, but um, showing like whether or not I would be a good partner.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I suspect, I mean, not to kind of go down we won't go down this rabbit trail unless you want to, but I suspect that is a much kind of that's a really kind of a mental thing, like being able to kind of speak to that very kind of easily, facilely, and like, sure, if it doesn't work for you, no worries, no skin off my nose, like, I hope you find what you need. And i I mean, you know I actually have no problem saying something like that, but um yeah,
No, I think
requires
uh,
like it requires a certain level of, I don't know. I feel like it's deeper than just like plain old self confidence, but
yeah,
yeah.
it is. So the word that I would use very intentionally is conviction, not confidence.
Mm,
Uh,
yes, I
because
love that.
confidence, especially like, there's all the fake it till you make it types and project confidence and all that. That's just kicking the can down the road and then stuff blows up and you have a lawsuit instead of no client, right? Like
Right?
that's worse for everyone. Uh, but
Yes.
the conviction part and this is where I feel like not I feel like I've witnessed you come so far um in like your positioning in the market and your work with early stage prospects and things, and I feel like you just need to carry that on through the relationship is saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm really good at, and if you fit this criteria, then I can deliver for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't just like look at somebody once and understand their business situation, their metrics, their goals. Like it doesn't mean that you can prescribe exactly what that thing looks like, but you can with confidence say, no, this is the work I do. If you need that type of work, I will be able to deliver it for you. And so later on, if it's like, let's say it's that expansion conversation, hey, this is the work we've done. This is the situation you're in now. This is what I see as being next. If you agree that that's a strategic fit, then let's go down that road. And you're sort of restating that initial positioning of like, if this is getting leverage in your business, then this is, and if you as the leader decide, no, you know what, the next best place for me to spend my money is no longer marketing or sales or whatever, there's higher leverage somewhere else, then great. That's a decision that you as the leader of the business make. But from your perspective as that subject matter expert, you can say, hey, here's what I know about your business and your situation. Here's what I'm really good at. Here's the impact that I could make. Therefore, ball's in your court to decide if you want to work
Yeah,
with me or you want to go, somewhere else. So I think it's really that conviction piece of just like carrying on.
totally right.
I think what happens is and I could be off base on this, but especially the more you get to know people and the more you work with them, the more you care about them individually and them uh, in particular, their particular situation and team and market and all that. And now that sort of, it's not scarcity mindset the way that, it can manifest earlier in the relationship, but it's still that like, oh, please choose me because I really enjoy working with you. I really want to help you. So there's still that kind of neediness of like, please, pick me, pick me.
Yeah, yeah,
um, and that just introduces friction around your around the relationship and the decision process, but around your positioning as a subject matter expert who they want to lead. They don't want someone who's saying pick me. They want someone to say, if we work together, here's where I see us going. And if you want to go somewhere else, that's fine. Or you think there's a different priority, that's fine. But like, this is the leadership option.
yeah. So
Anyways,
I
this
would
just
say that I am like getting slowly but surely getting better at that, Ian.
yeah.
Even
No,
just talking about this right now is like is help, great help.
well, you are absolutely getting better at it. Don't interpret any of what I'm hearing in your anecdote or your example as being critical, because I've witnessed it, and it's great that I've enjoyed the conversations that we've had. Where, like I said, you seem much more at peace with the business, relaxed, like in control, um, and doing work that you enjoy, which is 90% the battle, right?
Yes, you're so right. You're so right. Well, thank God for that.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Maybe it's shifting gears. I don't know. Uh, so, as an independent business owner, there's
Mm.
always more to do, whether that's working on the business or delivering for clients. Uh, how do you personally avoid the infinite workday pressure?
Well, okay. I hired a virtual assistant a few years back. And I was like, this is going to help because I've hired this virtual assistant. That's the magic bullet. And then slowly but surely, I ended up through not kind of knowingly doing this, but taking stuff off her plate and saying like, no, I really need to take care of this. This is really my so the second time around, and then so yeah, like fast forward a couple years later, and she ended up, going doing her own thing, which is totally fine because I took all this stuff and like basically her work off her plate, and I'm like, crap, I'm doing all this same stuff again. How did this happen? And I feel like, well, I'm the oldest of five, and so like I gotta, I have this whole like this idea about like, well, I'm the oldest, so I gotta kind of like, pull myself up by my bootstraps and do all the work, whether or not that's, how or why that happened. I realized I've known for a long time, like, okay, I need to have like someone I can rely on to if a client's like, hey, I need to talk, this week, and your calendar is totally booked up. I pass that request on. Um, Over the last few years, I've been very, very pleased to have brought on a few contractors. I actually never thought I'd be able to bring on like a design contractor because I thought, well, no, that's really kind of like, they're swimming in my pool. But it's been such a pleasure to actually give stuff to these people, stuff where I've kind of done what I really enjoy, which is like kind of like the creative, problem solving, or kind of coming up with like the core kind of unique puzzle pieces that kind of make up like a company's brand setup. I love working that stuff out and then saying, okay, we have a one sheet that needs these brands and these colors, like go for it, or whatever. um, I have a couple developers that I lean on, and that I have to say I'm still kind of just going back to what I said a second ago. I'm still learning that lesson of, Laura, just you have these people ready and willing to help you. Like
Hmm.
just like what like why are you hemming and hawing about this? Just like give them the project. Even now, like I'm like, oh, this, this client will come to me like, oh, I have all these little edits, and I think, oh, I really should just do this myself. I don't know why. I feel like that could take a whole other kind of like, 2 or 3 hours to discuss. Like, why are we gluttons for punishment? Like, why are we
Hmm.
like, no, I have to like castigate myself and do this work I can't stand. I don't know why. But slowly but surely, I've kind of gathered this ragtag awesome group of people that support me really well. They're not employees, so I'm just not that large, and I just don't want also don't want I don't want to be kind of a manager in that respect, and I'm not ready for that type of financial pressure. But I've been able to find people that they're working on a bunch of other things for other clients, and but they are wonderful at what they do, and I just kind of realized I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but this is kind of, I guess, how I've been able to serve at the level that I have been for the past couple years, and still be able to like go to bed at end my day at a decent time,
Hmm.
like just have a good quality of life, and say to my husband, hey, let's go for a walk before dinner, or let's even go out for dinner tonight, or whatever. Or let's kind of take the afternoon off, like that type of stuff that you really can do when you work for yourself. And I suspect that that kind of latitude is part of the reason why people enjoy working for themselves. Like they have total control over their time, their calendar. Uh, so yeah, that was a bit of a meandering answer, but
No,
I
it's
hope I.
great. Yeah, and that's a huge. You go lots of different directions from there. But one thing I want to highlight is like when you ask the why do I always feel this way? Like why? That's always a uh, story question, right?
Mm,
It could be family of origin, it could be you mentioned being the firstborn and have right. There's all kinds of things. It could be your initial culture of work you grew up in, or even the initial company that you worked at, and all of these things are generally inherited or sort of absorbed through osmosis, not something that we consciously choose. But when you feel this and when you ask that question, the first step is it's exactly the right thing to do. Why do I feel like I always have to do this stuff? Why do I feel threatened when I've got somebody to, hand this off to, and I feel like, no, that's my lane. And what does that mean? Like, what is that saying about my identity or how I understand myself and my work? Those are really, really important questions. We could go way down that track, uh, but probably also not for public consumption. But so the other part that I want to zoom in on is like there's a really so one thing that we've lost when uh, without the firm, without the corporate structure of you work one place for 50 years and then you get the gold watch and the pat on the back, um, is the uh, you call it generational, but it's not necessarily age related. It's just the development of talent and the mentoring that comes with it. So one way to look at what you're doing with contractors, like yes, it provides leverage in your business. It allows you to serve more clients, things like that are all good things. But another thing is like you have a higher level of expertise, and there are people younger designers who need the work. need the money, want to do that level of work, and probably want to level up, right? At some point. And so viewing yourself as, yeah, I'm both delegating this project, but I'm creating a relationship where there could be, if they're interested, a mentoring aspect or some of that development that when everybody's a perpetual free agent or a solo, an independent contractor or something like that, we lose that expectation of development, of talent development, of mentoring, of transfer of expertise and skills, right? I'm sure they have things they could teach you about new technology or like whatever it is that kids are doing these days. So it's not all one way, but I do think that it's really important that when you look at it, it's not just, hey, I am shifting lower value work to somebody for whom that's high value work right now, but also I'm creating a relationship where I can help this person, I can help draw out more of this person's talent, their ability, their impact, and it only happens through that relationship and through those opportunities that you're creating for them. So that was a rambling response, but wanted to highlight that aspect of it's not just this mercenary find leverage in my business and outsource this. When you're a subject matter expert, when you're working in a craft like design, you doing these things, you delegating work is also at least opening the channel to developing talent in your space and developing another person.
So right. And on my best days, I am aware of that. I wish I could say most days, but yes, I heartily concur.
All right. Uh, where do you want to go from here? Anything
Well,
else that you want to talk about or cover in this
well,
chat? We can always do this again too.
I kind of want to say one thing that this isn't like exactly kind of have to do with what you've been asking about, but I think it's kind of like an extension of what I had mentioned earlier, which was like kind of shaving down shaving down the number of options that you know that I'm giving to my clients, or I'm kind of preparing even for myself. So I think one thing that if anyone is still listening to this at this point, so just you.
God bless you if you are.
Right. Awesome. Is this that you've actually been I have to say you've been really instrumental in kind of helping reframe this idea of when I am considering, well, we'll actually make this really specific. A while ago, as you recall, Ian, I was considering what type of new computer I should buy. Should I buy a new computer? Should I like save like, a couple $1,000s and buy like a used one? And I spent so much time on the research. I do the same thing. I have like over 30 plants in my house. I do the same thing with like planters, like, oh, like I can just, I love, well, maybe love isn't the right word because I think this is, therein lies the problem. I spend so much time looking at the options that in the end, and you were really the one that, I don't remember if you said it this way, but really, I'm actually, by the time that I'm spending on looking at all these options, I'm like actually overspending my time. I don't think I'm going to say it right. I'm basically wasting money. I'm wasting my time. Um, and what I really should just do is say, okay, I'm looking for a planter. Here are three options. I'm going to look at them for a few minutes and then make a decision and then just like buy it. And that's almost better. No, not almost. It is better than looking at them for days and days and days and then deciding to go with the cheaper one because God doesn't want me to have a like beautifully made quality planter or some total lie like that. It's like really what I did was I wasted all of that time where I could have been making money, or I could have had like a great quality experience doing something. Um, so I don't really know what you would kind of call that lesson or whatever, but I feel like that's also wrapped up in yeah, something that we talked about in our last call with our friend Lance about something about like financial stuff, but I can't remember what you call it. But this idea of like just not wasting, not like kind of wasting this precious resource of my own time and attention, but then also there's this piece of like financial piece of, well, I can't remember what you called it, but it was
Well,
something that Lance was like, this is really important.
yeah, I forget what we were talking about with Lance, but I mean, the straight out of economics, the categorically opportunity cost is the value of the marginal thing that you could be doing instead of what you're doing. So, um, that's like in I say this as somebody who has an econ degree. It's pretty much useless in the real world because because all of those concepts are really important, but for them to operate, they operate in the vacuum of a set of assumptions that don't necessarily match the real world. Now, opportunity cost is a really important concept because when you set your, like, you need to understand your criteria. If your criteria is, I am trying to maximize the value of my business or my time or whatever, then you have a very clear set of criteria. Is a marginal moment of research on this problem going to yield higher return on investment of that moment than doing something else? The answer is almost always no. And that's why you see people, um, particularly the more, and I put this in major air quotes, successful they are, but the more, the bigger their budget is, the more they earn, the more whatever, the faster they are to make decisions, even in a state of extreme uncertainty. Reason being, the only way you really know is to buy the planter and put the plant in, and if it dies, you go, should have bought a different planter, right? Or buy the computer that was, cheap and be like, this doesn't work now. I have to go buy another one. But finding out sooner rather than later is almost always more valuable in pure economic terms than doing more research to try to figure out what the best decision is on the front end in a state of uncertainty. Now, one major caveat for this, we're making economic financial decisions in that category. If your hobby is to grow a garden and it's fun to research and understand how these things work, do not treat your hobby this same way. Do the research
Yes.
and enjoy the research up until the point where you feel like you've researched enough, and then buy the thing that you want and enjoy that because you know that it was the best decision and the one that you really wanted, right? So there are these kind of like modes that it's important to operate in when it's like a purely sort of rational business decision, and then a different context, especially relationally. When people start taking that opportunity cost mindset and applying it to people and to engagements in real life or relationships, it is extraordinarily destructive because it undermines
Yes.
the dignity of the other person that you're
Yes.
engaging with. So um, there's a lot around that, and the most useful thing you can do is again what you did. Uh, it sounds condescending to say I'm proud of you, but I am. That you're asking, first of all, you're taking that lesson, but you're also asking, like, why do I feel this way? Because that's the fruit of the entire thing, is to first notice the feeling. No, I feel like I need to, like, I shouldn't have this nice thing. I feel some guilt or shame about having this nice thing. Maybe I should do some research to find a cheaper version of this thing. And there's something there that's story, that's identity, that's beliefs that are not true. And that's even, you can look at it rationally and say, that's poor economic logic. It doesn't change how you feel. So step one is, why do I feel this way? Rooting out those beliefs. Step two is applying, what's the situation and how do I need to think about this decision in this context?
Yes, and as you were talking, I remembered the term that I was trying to say in my last bit, scarcity mindset, which
Hmm.
you actually kind of almost kind of gave a bit of a definition of a minute ago, and I feel like that's another thing that I guess I was trying to say that this idea of spending all of this time, this opportunity cost, that's something that has been very helpful in kind of me learning from our work together. In addition to me kind of recognizing this scarcity mindset that I have about certain things. And it's like, why do I think this way? Why should I always like go for the cheapest planter? Like, like what, like why? I'm not saying that you should always go for the most expensive one. Like, I mean, that's not like the right answer to the question, but it's like, why is the right answer to the question? Why do I always feel like it should be the cheapest one? You
Hmm.
know, like, so I feel like that was another, oh, and then I shouldn't even be buying a planter because, for whatever reason that your scarcity mindset kind of like, inserts in there. So I think, I don't know if by saying that I've kind of like derailed where you were going, but I just wanted to kind of raise my hand and say that's another kind of important aspect of what I've learned from you and our work together that's really kind of helping me kind of, or carrying me through. uh, so I just actually bought a new computer. I didn't just, but a few months ago, and I was just like, you know what? It is going to be a waste of time for me to look through all these different, and it's like I want to not have to buy another computer for like the next like 7 or 8, 9, 10 years. That's what I want. So I would much rather buy like a new one now, and maybe I'll spend a few minutes researching which one of the new ones I should buy, but not too much. And so I feel very content in that, very happy. Whereas I feel like if I had kind of gone another route, I'd be like, is this issue with my computer maybe because it's an older computer or what? So I have
Yeah.
this noise, in the back of my head whenever something goes wrong, which it inevitably does. But I just wanted to kind of put a bookmark in that too.
Yeah. Thanks. And you bring up something else that's really important too. Is like those decisions unmade stack up. I should say it. The unmade
Yeah,
decisions stack up, and the doubt or the wonder of, oh, should I have gotten that instead of this? Those stack up too, and that's just like a mental and emotional tax on
yeah,
your effectiveness, on your presence with clients, on your work, on your enjoyment of it, on your performance, on everything. And so when you start to look at it in those terms too, it's like, no, I just need to clear the deck. Like even if it's a bad decision, I'll find out later, but I need to make the decision I think is right now and then move forward without this looming unmade decision, this open loop hanging over me. So that's really significant too. But I love Laura. I always love talking to you, but especially how like um, this question of like why like the awareness to wonder, why do I feel that way? What's really going on here? What because that's really the layer, if you will, at which the real growth and the real unlock happens is what's going on underneath, not just some like tactical hack or playbook or something like that. Those things are useful situationally, but they don't create lasting change the way that curiosity around what's really going on. Why is this? Why do I feel this way? That why question. So I commend you for that, and it's always fun talking to you.
thank you, Gandalf. For the people that might still be listening, the blessed people that are still listening, I always think Ian is like the Gandalf to my, I don't know, Sam or Bilbo or whatever. Gandalf is he's the wise wizard, and that's what Ian is. I know, Ian, you're like,
Well,
oh, not
I,
me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If it's true, to the extent that it's true, it's only because I've probably made the same mistakes or felt the same way
Yeah.
before. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up with this. Is there any where can people go to learn more about your work and what you do?
Sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Laura Sorensen, Sorensen with an E, not O-N at the end, but E-N at the end. I'm Danish.
The correct way to spell it, right?
Way to spell it, yes, is Sorensen with an E-N at the end. And so you can, that's really kind of where I am mostly. I'll be honest, I'm not really on the social channels very much, but LinkedIn is kind of where, if I am anywhere, I'm there. Um, and and then on my website, my business name is a little tricky. It's Atelier, LKS. Atelier is a French word that means studio, and then LKS are my initials. So years ago, I was like, this is a stupid name. Nobody can say this. And my mom, I was talking about it with my mom, and she was like, no, it's French. It's so cool. You should keep it. And I was like, all right, mom, I'll keep it. So, it's just one of those things. You just got to pick a business name and go with it. And then, you know what? For better or worse, that's your business name, but it doesn't matter. It's like what you do with it, how you market it. So, it's all right. You don't have to be able to pronounce it well in order to be my friend. So that's where to find me. AtelierLKS.com. ATELIERLKS.com.
Sweet. We'll put that in the show notes too for anyone who's on a pod channel somewhere. Cool. Thanks for hanging out for a little while. We'll do it again. We should do like a roundtable thing too. Get some of our ever expanding circle up here just to chat on topics or something like that.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Cool.
I am there, man.
Laura, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ian. I even learned so much just from this. So, Ian, you're the
Glad.
best.
Thank you. All right. See you, everyone. My name is Ian Crawford. I collect untimely ideas, build frameworks for living with purpose, and coach executives on redeeming leadership. For more conversations, our email newsletter, and topical collections of untimely ideas, visit our website at untimellyideas.com. Until next time, hustle less, hope more, connect more deeply.